Good evening, everyone. My name is Dipit, and on behalf of Shoolini Online, I'd like to welcome you to yet another exciting fireside chat. Every week, we are joined by exceptional leaders from the industries to share insights and knowledge with you all to help you in navigating your professional and your academic lives. You can check out our previous sessions on our socials, our Instagram, LinkedIn, and of course, YouTube. Today, we are going to talk about emerging technologies, and we are joined by Mr. Rajesh Dhuddu. He is a partner at PwC. He stands as a dynamic leader at the forefront of shaping thought leadership and go-to marketing strategies in Web 3.0 and emerging technologies at PwC, the world's largest professional services network. With a distinguished academic background, including an MBA with a gold medal in finance from Columbia Business School, Harvard Business School, and a degree from Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Rajesh possesses a deep understanding of both business and technology domains. His illustrious career spans pivotal roles at Tech Mahindra, where he solidified the company's global leadership in blockchain, metaverse, and cybersecurity. Rajesh's expertise lies not only in driving corporate innovation, but also in spearheading initiatives with societal impact, such as combating spam calls in India through innovative solutions. Recognized globally as a top influencer in blockchain, you can also follow Rajesh on LinkedIn. Rajesh's contributions have earned him acclaim from industry analysts, academic institutions like IIM Ahmedabad, and prestigious forums such as the World Economic Forum's Expert Network. Rooted in his life's motto, which is help ever and hurt never, Rajesh is dedicated to mentoring entrepreneurs, executives, and students alike while championing holistic wellness through pursuits like cycling and spiritual practices. And welcome, Rajesh. Our pleasure to have you today.
Thank you,
And
thank you. Thanks for the kind introduction.
pleasure. And joining Rajesh is our very own Professor Ashish Khosla. He's an alumni of PEC
Hi.
Chandgarh and IIM Calcutta. He's held prominent roles across banks in the Middle East, such as Citi, UNB, HSBC, and he is currently serving as the co-founder and president for innovation and marketing at Shoolini University. He has spearheaded the institution's digital transformation through his visionary leadership. Shoolini has seamlessly integrated technology into all aspects of its operations, particularly in the field of online education. So thank you so much, Ashish, for taking the time to speak with us this evening. And with that, I'm going to mute myself and pass it over to you both. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Deepak.
Great. Thank you very much for being here with us, Rajesh. If I may, in the start, I just say this is a changing world and it's changing very, very rapidly around us. In fact, today we are having a conference, a healthcare and pharma conference in Shoolini, and
Oh,
everybody's talking about technology and its impact in pharma and healthcare. And that's the only speaker after speaker from both industry and academia are talking about the impact of technology. And technology is changing the way we look at industry. So examples are artificial intelligence in healthcare, virtual reality for doctors, various implementation of Internet of Things uh, for patients who need urgent need and such types, right?
right.
And there is such a plethora of both technicians or technical experts. But more than that, I can see this layer of people who are business experts, who know how to use these technologies. And some of these technologies are just coming into the forefront, metaverse and generative AI being examples of that. So Rajesh, you actually do such an interesting role. You're partner at PwC in the area of emerging tech. So what are the key areas that around emerging tech which you feel are going to have a major significance in the next 5 to 6 years to come?
Yeah, thank you, Ashish. Thanks for the context and that particular question. Like everybody does today, I went to ChatGPT and asked. I was anticipating this question, so I asked ChatGPT. It's not that I don't know the answer. Why I asked ChatGPT, because ChatGPT, whatever ChatGPT says, is a summation of what everybody says. Right. Ultimately, it is gonna get that information based on the information that is published across the web, and which goes into that particular model. It has information from the analysts, it has information from the media, it has information from various publications, and it summarizes and gives out that particular information. So, in essence, without any particular priority, what we are seeing is in terms of a lot of change that is happening, and that change is being driven primarily by uh, artificial intelligence, the various formats of artificial intelligence which come as intelligent automation, robotic process automation, machine learning, natural language processing, and now the latest craze, which is the generative AI. So we are seeing a lot of changes in that particular area. The second thing where we are seeing a significant change is the importance and the role of digital worlds for success in the physical worlds. I
Mm.
recently
Yeah.
did a TEDx talk and I had shared it with your team as well, wherein I talk about in terms of how Chandrayaan was successful. We all know Chandrayaan 2 was not very successful. It was Chandrayaan 3 which actually created pride in the heart of every Indian, in the hearts of every Indian, right? And if you look at the aspects of Chandrayaan 3, where they were successful, and Chandrayaan 2, they were not successful because in 3, they simulated the entire lunar world in terms of, programmed how does the gravitational force works in the lunar world, how does things change when the landing gear of that man-made spacecraft lands on the surface of the moon, how does the dust interferes with the landing gear, and various other things. Probably they would have programmed about 1 million parameters and tried to eliminate the failures or the possibility or the probability of failures. So to be successful in a physical world, now you have to create a digital world, program the real world physics into the digital world, perfect whatever you're doing in the digital world, and then roll it out into the real world. And the example that you alluded to, where the doctors are using virtual reality, augmented reality, they're training themselves before a complex surgery, gather the confidence, perfect the art of surgery, and then go on and perform the surgery. That's a major trend that we are seeing, which kind of integrates the digital world into the physical world. The third one, where we are seeing a significant traction, is in terms of what I call as immersive commerce. If you look at when commerce came into existence, the only form of connection between the business and the customer was a glorified phone, not even a mobile phone. It was a landline. People picked up that particular landline, dialed the business from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the evening. If you have a query after 8 p.m., bad luck. You sleep over that particular query and then get to the business the next day. That was
Mm.
the only form of immersivity that was available. Then came web commerce, then came mobile commerce. Now we are seeing a lot of immersive commerce, primarily using augmented reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality. We are seeing a lot of traction in the quantum area, and
Okay.
because the classical computers, their ability to program complex algorithms, solve complex problems, is only limited, whereas quantum computers are playing a significant role. We call it as the traveling salesperson problem. Every company needs to decide where their salespeople have to be placed, or the hub and spoke model for an airline company. You cannot have your planes parked in every location, right? When they are not flying, they have to fly to a nearest location. Probably they'll have a hub and they have a spoke model. Now, how do you optimize where is the hub going to be and where is the spoke? Where are the spokes going to be? These are some of the problems which are not solved today, and that's where quantum computing is playing an important role. Space exploration, space tech, agri tech, cognitive tech, gone are the days when people used to say smart technology. Now, smart means a dull and old technology. Smart is not the focus. The focus is on cognitive technology. I'll give you an example. You have everything on your phone. Basically, you're trying to catch a flight, and the phone knows in terms of what time the flight is because you have the boarding pass in the phone, and then it knows your location. That means because of connecting to a local cell site and getting the GPS coordinates from there, it knows the location. It knows your schedule because you're going to have meetings which are going to be archived in that particular phone, and then it also knows where you are, and it also knows how much time you need to get to the airport so that you don't miss that particular flight. Now, can the phone and the technology can analyze and give you proactive input saying that, hey, I think if you do the last meeting, you are at a risk and risk of missing a flight. So that is what is cognitive. Smart is okay. I have a phone. I know it. I have a boarding pass in the phone. I open up the Google Maps, and then it will tell me how much time it takes for me to get from place A to place B. But the decision making is left to me in a smart technology. Whereas in a cognitive technology, it processes everything and then it alerts you in advance saying, make these corrections. And if you don't make the corrections, you run the risk of losing a flight or getting late to a flight and stuff like that. So in essence, these are the things that we are seeing both in the personal life as well as in the business life, and these are some of the technologies that come to my mind.
Oh, great, Rajesh. You've taken us through a full spectrum of technologies, starting with AI, virtual and physical world meeting in the metaverse, emerging immersive commerce, quantum, which is also it's not there yet, but it's coming in very fast.
Right.
Is that like a threat coming into us? We'll talk about that. Maybe I'll ask you about that as
In
well.
fact,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people say that quantum is still fair because
Yeah.
obviously
Yes.
hardware and the algos are not that easily available. The quantum
Yeah.
computer is
Yeah.
somewhere beneath the earth. But I've seen some interesting applications of
Okay.
quantum. For example, there is a company in Australia where they help you plug in a portfolio calculation or portfolio optimizing algorithm into an Excel. Now you have an option of performing that either macros in Excel or invoking that particular algorithm. And then sometimes you're still in doubt, right? Have you done the right thing and stuff like that? So you can use the algorithm from the quantum compute just to validate if your decision is good or not. And we are seeing such use cases emerge fairly faster.
Interesting, Rajesh. If I may come to quantum first, so I was thought I'll follow your pattern, but since you're touching on quantum, a lot of
Yeah,
our students are not really aware of what quantum is, what is the technology,
yeah,
and there are things you can do with quantum. People say that once quantum comes in, we will all have to change our passwords because it is a level that it will be able to easily crack all the passwords of all the world,
right,
right?
right.
And it's going to be a big. You also look at fintech in cards and people. I've had a long career there, and I know that if people start being able to decrypt some of the internal encryptions of banks and card companies, that might be an issue. But if you could
Right.
start by quickly telling our audience what is quantum computing, very briefly,
Yeah,
and what
sure.
do you think are the opportunities and challenges around that?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, good question. So, to put in simple terms, those of you who are proficient with the classical computers, the computer is only binary. It interprets
Yeah.
everything one and zero, right? And if you look at the shortest form of the memory or the data is bits, then 8 bits make up a byte, and the byte makes up a kilobyte, kilobyte makes up a megabyte, and stuff like that. But eventually, it all starts as either one or zero. A computer could interpret either it as one or zero. That's why I call it as a binary output. But whereas in a quantum computer, the computer can have any state between 0 to 1. It could be 0.1 0.1, 0.11, 0.12, 0.13. And now if you look at the probabilities or the combinations, they're infinite, right? From 0 to 1, if you take various aspects. So basically harnessing that multiple states that are there between 0 to 1 and not just 0 and 1, and harnessing those multiple states and building that into the compute is exactly what the quantum computer does. And what this quantum compute in given that now your ability to compute, harness the compute power, solve complex problems become even more easy and possible because your compute power has increased significantly. And how are they going to get? They're going to get this from the quantum physics. Ultimately, it's basically utilizing the principles of quantum physics, and it goes into, without getting into too many details, but it goes into things like quantum entanglement, the particle position, and all that stuff. And then using that, it comes up with a compute capability which is far, far higher than the classical computer or maybe a supercomputer which is there today. Even the most powerful supercomputer, which is Fortran, uh, whose speed is mentioned in the number of flops, and it is there in the public media. And if you compare that compute capability vis-a-vis quantum, the quantum is high. But to do that, the computer needs to be put somewhere under the earth at a minus 270 Kelvin so that the computer does not behave erratically. That's the ambient temperature in which the computer works. So most of the quantum computers are somewhere in the mother crust, earth crust, and you're harnessing the compute power using an accelerator on the cloud. IBM does that. It's called as an IBM Q, and Microsoft also does that. Google and Honeywell has a quantum computer. There are various other companies who have their quantum computers. They're all buried somewhere down, and then they're harnessing that particular power using the accelerators on the cloud. That's where it is currently. There's a lot of research that is happening on the hardware, and in fact, when I was at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research about a few weeks ago, they're doing a cutting edge work in the hardware in the quantum space. And the researchers over there were telling me India had a software boom, but a hardware doom. And you know this, Ashish.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
how can we catch up now in the quantum scenario where we don't repeat that particular mistake, right? We are very good in software, but we are not very good in hardware. But how do you
Mm.
correct that particular mistake with regards to quantum is what that particular researchers are doing it, and make quantum compute a lot more affordable. It costs an arm and leg to make a quantum computer, several hundreds of millions of dollars, and not every person can have access to that. So that's where we are exactly in the state of quantum. Until and unless we don't understand the quantum mechanics and quantum physics, it's very difficult to understand the basic tenets or the basic fundamentals or basic principles of quantum compute. I'll pause here.
Yeah.
If you have a follow-on question, happy to answer, then I'll get into the use cases.
Great, Rajesh. I'm just reminded of something, half a joke, but many years back, I asked an IBM practitioner what is quantum computer. And he said, when a kid, did you read these Chacha Chaudhary comics? I don't know whether you did. It was there in my time. And they used to say that Chacha Chaudhary is smarter than the computer. And he said he's smarter than the computer because computer can only think of 0 and 1.
Yeah,
And Chacha Chaudhary, it can think of all the possible alternatives at the same point
correct.
of time. So Chacha Chaudhary is able to think of millions of solutions at the same point of time because he's like a quantum computer.
Right.
So I tell that to my students that this is like what a quantum computer is. I also tell them if you haven't read Chacha Chaudhary, go and do it. It's never too late. But jokes apart,
Right.
Rajesh, we do know quantum computer is probably a few years away. But so was AI. I mean, when I was in
Yeah.
banking, people used to say AI is coming, it never came. And then suddenly, Lou, one day it's here, right? In a big way, right?
Right.
And I'm assuming the same will happen around quantum computing. Somebody
Right.
told me about a startup that is trying to do quantum computing in space. So I don't know how far fetched that is.
Right.
Uh, but what are some of the uses that will immediately come up? and tend to change the world with quantum computing. And this
Yeah.
before we move on to AI, because I thought we'll also pick your brain on AI and metaverse. Of course, that's a lovely and very inspiring and very interesting TEDx talk that you did around that whole area. But
Right. Right.
yeah,
So, to your point, in terms of cybersecurity, can be either broken or can be strengthened with a quantum computer. It's pretty much like whether you're giving the knife in the hands of a surgeon or in the hands of a thief. So, a lot of people say that the cybersecurity algorithms will get compromised. We know about MD5 collusion that got compromised. There are other cybersecurity algorithms, RSA, digital encryption, advanced encryption software, digital encryption software, and various other things. And I myself had written a paper on that. But
hmm,
to compromise some of those algorithms, you need, a quantum computer of about 6,000 qubits, or at least the
okay,
logical qubits, which
hmm,
is a little bit far fetched. But my argument is in terms of when you use the computer to break the algorithm, you can use the same capability to strengthen the algorithm further. And with the advancement of blockchain, zero knowledge proofs, we are getting into aspects like passwordless authentication and various other things, which I'm happy to talk about. Those, in addition to the quantum algorithm, can strengthen the cybersecurity. I mean, there are always bad guys who are working to break it, and there are
yeah,
always good guys who are working to strengthen it. So that's
hmm,
one area. The other area where we are currently seeing it is, if you look at optic fiber on which the data packets get exchanged, you can go to a eBay and buy a $30-40 data packet sniffer. And if you put it on the optic fiber, you can sniff the data packets and you can decipher in terms of what the data is. So there is this startup called QNew Labs, whom I know very well.
hmm,
They have now bringing the fiber and then putting a quantum router at the far end and the quantum router at the near end, so that
hmm,
whatever information that goes through that particular network is completely safe. I mean, it's quantum safe, which means no algorithm will allow that particular data packets to be sniffed, and they're completely secure. Of course, they've demonstrated it only up to 250 kilometers. Beyond that, the cost is very, very prohibitive.
okay,
As is the case, we know that when online storage came, the cost of 1 GB was highly prohibitive, right? Today, 1 GB is
yeah,
nothing. The cost
mm,
of storage is nothing. Over a period of time, it is going to reduce significantly. That's another area. uh, when COVID came, a lot of people used computational science to come up with drug molecules. In my
mm,
ex company, we have used that computation science to arrive at possible COVID drug module by 3D printing a human lung, and then using all these complex models using computation science. And we did it on the classical computers. Now, if you put that onto a quantum computer, your ability to do complex data computational science models will increase exponentially, which means there is a good, what do you call, good future from a drug discovery perspective. And
okay,
today, the um, drug discovery trials and various other things are limited. So at some point of the time, the drug company will say, okay, there is a risk, of course, if we don't proceed with these particular trials. But if we continue to do the trial, the risk of losing people is high. That's what has happened in the COVID world, right? Where all the
mm,
drug companies immediately introduced the vaccines with, I wouldn't say suboptimal testing, but ideally they would have uh, they would have waited for a much more longer time, many years,
yeah,
to complete the
yeah,
testing. And that is a big lacune which can be addressed by quantum computer again. So these are some of the things I told you about: operational research
yeah,
in terms of traveling salesman problem, hub and spoke model for an airline company, portfolio optimization strategies for a guy who does mutual fund investment. So these are some of the areas where there are good opportunities to implement quantum.
Wow. Thank you. Thanks, Rajesh. Thank you for that. Students, I hope you made a note of that. Rajesh, if I may, let's move on to AI
Yeah.
first. Uh, and, very basically, if you can kind of introduce what artificial intelligence is as you see it to our students, and how do you think it's going to impact the world around us? Is it already impacting the world around us? To what extent? And
Yeah.
one question that students always have is, will AI eat into my career or job? What are your personal views on that? So if you could
Yeah.
have something on AI first. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, artificial intelligence has been around for many, many years. And
Yes.
it is only with the advent of ChatGPT, Gemini, and the others that AI field became very hot and crazy, especially with the advent of generative AI ability to compose text, compose prose, generate pictures, and various other things. That's when AI caught the attention. But if you have to understand the world of AI, first you need to understand that there are many, many things, right? For example, as I told you before, there's automation, then there is intelligent automation, there's robotic process automation, there's machine learning, then there is in terms of the generative AI that comes into, then conversational AI comes into
Mm.
picture, explainable AI comes into the picture. Now, let me make everybody understand with a simple example, an example that all of us can relate to. All of us have traveled by a flight, and the students may not be aware of this, but I presume Ashish, you, Dipit, and some of the older people in the audience know about it. Earlier days, when you were traveling, you would get a manual boarding pass, and you take a baggage tag and take that baggage tag to the security belt, and the bag gets checked. The bag gets stamped with the CISF good to go seal. And without that, if you lose that tag, it's a hell all over the place, right? Then again, you
Yeah.
have to go back to the CIF and do that. That was manual process. And when they replaced everything with an online check-in, electronic boarding pass, electronic screening, no more baggage tags and all that stuff, that's a automation. That's a automation. Now come to the intelligent automation. It's still not there in India in all the airports, but in some of the airports it is there, where you will go to a belt. There's nobody over there, and there's not even a human agent in that particular area. You just go, take your boarding pass, show the QR code to the machine over there, place your bag on the belt, the baggage tag gets generated, and the bag gets checked in. That is intelligent automation. And the entire thing, the life cycle that intelligent automation covers, right from the check-in to the delivery of the bag, is the robotic process automation. Now comes the generative AI piece. So now you said, okay, you're done in all your check-in, automated or manual, whatever it is. Now you are at the airport. You have about let's say 60 minutes before your flight departs. Now you don't know what to do. You are afraid if you go too much far, you may not get back to the gate, and you now want to converse with someone, and that conversation will give you enough inputs to take confident decisions. That's where you can converse with a machine. And if you use voice for conversation, it is conversational AI. Or if you use text, then it starts generating answers. For example, I can go to that machine interface and say, hey, I have my boarding gate closes in the next 60 minutes. I've not had a coffee, and this is my favorite coffee. Now tell me whether this coffee is available in this particular airport or not, and how far is the coffee shop from here, and if I go there, am I likely to miss my flight? So it is generating answers to these questions. It's like human like answers, but which are coming from a machine. That's where the generative AI plays an important role. And if it's not text, you're speaking to the machine, and the machine is giving back answers to you. It's conversational AI. And when the machine is giving answers in an understandable fashion, which does not require no more processing, that is explainable AI. So that's exactly is what is happening in the world. Earlier, We had intelligent automation maybe in America. Later, it came to India. Robotic process automation in advanced countries, it is there to the maximum level, and now it is coming to India little later. But when you come to aspects like generative AI and the others, it is percolating the world at the same pace, and that's why we are seeing a lot of disruption. Earlier, when technology came to third world countries or emerging countries, there was a little bit of a gap. Today, because of the advent of the digital world, the world is so well connected. The percolation of these emerging technologies across the nook and corner of the world tend to be at the same pace. And that's why generative AI is changing the world at a much, much faster pace. Does that answer?
Yeah, Rajesh, that's a beautiful answer. So, how do you see Gen AI changing the world? What are some of the interesting applications which we will see in the next couple of years in your mind? Which are the ones that are just about to happen and which will surprise us too? What do you think? And
Yeah,
what's already happening with Gen
yeah,
AI right now?
it's already happening. Meta has not launched the WhatsApp version where you have Meta AI dot in your WhatsApp. It's not yet available here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the countries where it has launched, you can go to search. On the search, there is a purple dot. That purple dot is Meta AI engine, and you can start having conversation with that AI engine, saying that this is what I need to do. So you're basically giving away the search, and then you're going into the conversation aspects, the Gen AI aspects, right? Because search, it lists you 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. It still requires human intelligence to identify which is relevant and which is not relevant. Whereas in a Gen AI kind of a thing, it is giving you an answer. Of course, there is a problem of wrong answers, hallucination, and all that stuff, but it will get fixed over a period of time. And that is already percolating in our daily lives. And we've seen that today. You can go to Google Photo, you like a shirt of a particular person in the photo, you can bring up Google Lens and then focus the Google Lens on the shirt of that person. It goes to the internet and then gives you all the brands where that same pattern shirt is available, right? So the way we search, the way we interact, and the way we make decision is going to change significantly. That's number one, as far as our daily lives is concerned, or daily lives are concerned. Now, enterprise search. You're working in an organization, uh, or for the benefit of students in good old days, or even now, the students will go to the library. They keep searching various aspects, whether it's a digital library or a physical library, go by indexes, get to the right book or get to the right listing of an research article online, and then you again spend a lot of time in analyzing whether it is relevant to you or not. But now with this generative AI, it can tell you in terms of, it cuts short in terms of that search time, and it is freeing up your thinking ability, and redeploy that thinking ability somewhere else, assuming the results are dependable. That is a big change that is going to come. Now to
Okay.
your question. Yeah, sorry.
No, no, fine, great, lovely answer. Thank you, Rajesh. Let's move on. Yeah.
Yeah, and now your question in terms of how it is going to impact the career. I grew up in the family of banking people. My dad was a banker in SBI. When computers were introduced, my dad used to go to office even over the weekends. But when computers were introduced, few days he did not go to office. And then I asked him, "How come you are at home and not in office?" He said, "No, there is a strike, and the entire bank people are striking, especially the cashier and the teller, because once automation comes, what will the cashier and the teller do?" That was the state. And today, have the banking jobs have decreased? No, banking jobs have not decreased. Yeah, the cashier and the teller evaporated. They completely diminished, or they completely disappeared. But the same people, they reskilled themselves and became a credit officer, a wealth manager, an underwriting officer, a loan manager, relationship manager, so many other things which were non-existent at that particular point of time. And the same is going to happen with Gen AI, whether IT workforce or non-IT workforce, where they need to reskill and realign themselves and look at newer opportunities that are going to emerge. Number one. And number two, I like Gen AI because the more intelligent your question is, the more effective the answer is, which is the prompt engineering, as we call. Like ChatGPT, you go and ask silly questions, it gives you silly answers. But if you frame the prompt in such a manner that it is very sharp, it's incisive, it gives you result which is equally sharper and lot more insightful, which means the person who is doing the prompt, that person, if he or she trains themselves very well, it is only going to increase the spirit of inquiry. That's my personal view. So the more inquisitive you are, the more effort that you put in the inquiry, which comes with a higher spirit of inquiry, the more beneficial you will be with the answer. And that is, those are the changes that are going to come. Yeah, coding probably may decrease because most of the coding may be done by these intelligent machines, but interpretation of the code and the quality assurance, the quality control on the code still cannot be left to the machine. So those are some of the areas where people have to realign their skills and look for the jobs. And those who do that, they will be safe. Those who don't do that, they will perish.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thanks for telling students. So what Rajesh is saying is three things. He's saying, firstly, one will need to reskill, and that's important. So it's important to understand the students at over a period of your careers, what are the skills that would be needed in the bank of life, and make sure that you can reskill accordingly and move on successfully in your career. He also said that AI will help us do new things, and those new things is something that you should be looking at. And thirdly, he talked about the power of prompt engineering, or how to ask smart questions to computers. Uh, and frankly, that's something that we will cover. By the way, if you are your students of my course on AI and impact in business, we will actually teach you some of the current thoughts around prompt engineering. But the thought is that you have a powerful tool. You have to be smart to be able to use that as of now. And probably how to be smart with the computer is something that has to be taught to you, because that might be fundamentally different from the way you operate with computers and with colleagues currently. And very good that you talked about the importance of coding, and coding can be done by computers. In fact, the CEO of NVIDIA came up a few days back,
Mhm.
and he said now going forward, there's going to be one new and most popular and most important coding language, and that will be English. What he's
Right.
saying is that your natural language will be the most important
Absolutely.
language. So it's not the coding rules and algorithms that we were taught when we were being taught computer science. It's going to be how to think logically that's going to be more important. How to think the way a very fast tool like AI thinks, and to make it, meander and give the kind of results that you would want it to give, which will be more important. And the thought is hopefully, there will be jobs, more jobs than previously, and better defined and more interesting jobs than previously. And that's Rajesh's answer. Right,
Absolutely.
Rajesh? Now we come to the third part that he talked about, which is the metaverse, the merger of the
Yeah.
virtual and the physical world.
Yeah.
And we will also pass on to our students your TED talk, which is so interested in that. But if you could have your view on that, what exactly is the metaverse, for example? We're still talking about it, but what exactly is it? And how is it already impacting the world around us? And a couple of examples around that, Rajesh. That'll be
Yeah,
good to have.
absolutely. As I said, customers now want more and more immersivity and experience even before they make the purchase decision. We've seen this in the auto industry, we've seen this in the real estate industry, and real estate is a classical example. And every student may have gone through this experience of buying a home, which is primarily bought by their parents, right? And they would have played an important role in that particular process. You go and visit a site which is empty. There's nothing over there. You pay a lot of premium for a park facing apartment or an apartment at a higher floor. and then you left it to a chance because you don't know how the actual apartment is going to be or actual home is going to be. And then after 3.5 years or 4 years, when it gets delivered to you, and if you're not happy, it's a very difficult decision to undo because it's a pretty expensive, it's a highly intensive purchase. So in those kind of areas where now can we teleport people into their future homes, can we give them an opportunity to walk through the entire home, walk through the hall, walk through the kitchen, go into the balcony on the 20th floor, look around and see what the views are going to be? Not just that, also in terms of the club amenities, the common facilities that are there in the condominium and stuff like that. And that's where there's a lot of suboptimal experiences for customers, and many customers, after they have burned their fingers, they say this guy is a very bad builder. And for builder also, because of the word of mouth, it becomes extremely difficult for the builder to establish a good brand identity. So it works both ways, for the builder as well as the customers, where you are now rendering all that stuff in a virtual space, and then you're giving near real experiences with what we call as photorealism. They're not cartoonish kind of environments, they're
Yeah.
photorealistic, as
Yeah.
real as it can get. For instance, one of such conversation with the customer was buying something like a 4 crore rupees apartment, and the customer wanted to see how the light transitions in the home from 6 a.m. in the morning to 6 p.m. in the night, because they just wanted to be sure if the apartment is well ventilated or not. Now, in earlier scenario, what would you do? You give assurance after assurance, brand promise after brand promise, and try to pacify the customer or try to convince the customer. It is not optimal. Now you can put the customer into that particular environment, and you can simulate that entire transition of the light from 6 a.m. in the morning to 6 p.m. in the night. Earlier we used to write a lot of code to do that. Now, thanks to Gen AI, you can just do a Gen AI command in that environment and say, show this apartment in full light, show this apartment during sunrise, show this apartment during sunset. And using the latitude and the longitude of that particular apartment, and depending upon which geography it is, we are able to simulate that entire thing. And that exactly is going to come as a differentiated offering, and more customers will start demanding it. That's exactly what is happening in metaverse. Yeah, metaverse earlier was very good for social interactions, people having digital avatars for
Yeah.
getting together online, meeting online, whatever it is. That is just one aspect. It is a
Mm,
limited aspect. There's a very little commerce which is there
mm,
in that particular aspect. But the
mm,
real power of immersive world is how do you bring the entire commerce into
mm.
into the equation and make it a lot more meaningful. Like I had mentioned in the talk, if you look at the standard purchase of a four-wheeler or a two-wheeler, in an normal Indian family, it's the kids who decide what make of car that they need to buy, because as you presumably they are a lot more smarter than the parents, and we see this day in and day out, right? You don't know and all that stuff. But the same kids, when they go to showroom, they become very passive because they can't drive the car. At best, they are in the back seat experiencing the entire car drive, but they are not at the front seat, they're not at the driving wheel. Now, the virtual world gives you an opportunity to simulate the same experience for these particular kids in front of a big screen 3D environment and a simulator in the showroom, where they can get the, I'm not saying that they'll get 100% experience, equal to 100% experience of driving a car on the road, but it's at least 80 to 90% experience. And because
Yeah.
of that, the brand gets seen in a completely different fashion. And those are the things that we are seeing in the world today, in terms of how to make immersive environments lot more meaningful from a perspective of enabling commerce and not just social interactions.
Thank you for that, Rajesh. In fact, on Metaverse, I'm reminded last year, Sandhya, who's the CEO, India CEO of Facebook, at a
Hmm.
conference demoed that, where there were four people working in different countries, and they all worked together on the same project. And
Correct.
to each one of them, it appeared as if they were in the same room.
Yeah.
Yeah, and digital students is that hopefully
Correct.
before the time you graduate, you'll be sitting in a class, and maybe Rajesh and I will be lecturing you on something, and you can see your classmates and Rajesh and me in the same class.
Correct.
And maybe before you graduate, if you take 2 3 years, or maybe in your next course, you'll probably be able to see that, because technology is indeed moving and traveling so fast, right,
Absolutely.
Rajesh?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. So I'll now open this, because now we're in the last leg, last 10. We've taken a lot of time. Thank you, Rajesh, for these detailed explanations, both of the core technologies and what is the potential of these. We'll take a few questions from the audience, and I have one already that came into me. Is that I'm a business student. I'm studying my BBA, and
Yeah.
as a mentor, what guidance would you like to give to people like me who want to be entrepreneurs in technology, given the very fast changing landscape of technology and the linked business landscape? What's the advice you have for people like me?
Yeah, the best advice is look for the problems which are not yet solved, right? And look at in terms of what you can do in that particular area. I gave you an example of real estate. I gave you example of computation science for drug discovery. Of course, it tends to be a lot more technical and lot more intensive. But look for problems which are there in the daily life where commerce is not able to solve. 2 days ago I was watching TV, and on the TV, there was an extensive capsule on masalas in Indian market, where 80% of masalas are chemicals, and
Mm,
they
yeah.
busted some of the unscrupulous operators who were basically adding chemicals in the packets and selling it as masala. Now that is highly detrimental to one's health and also one's life. The other guy would have made some extra bucks by playing that, by cheating people, but look at the outcomes of that, the ramifications of that. And tech, there is tech which is available today which can solve that particular problem. So can you come up with compelling propositions in that particular area? And my experience has been, don't get bogged down by tech per se. If you identify a problem, and if you get a little bit of an understanding about the tech, the rest of the things will automatically fall in place. There are enough number of people who are available, who are very well versed in it. You just need to
Mhm.
find them, and once you get the right team, you will be able to create a crack team and solve the problem.
Mm.
So look for problems that remain unsolved. Look
Mm.
for areas where people make compromises during purchase or an experience, and if you're able to solve something in that area, it'll be a killer application or a killer service.
Yeah, very interesting. I think we can do a full course around that sometime, Rajesh. Right? Okay.
Happy.
Dipit, can you look at the back end and see are there any questions, or should I take a look? It's a bit slow here.
Right. I think I can see some questions. So
Yep.
Pawan's asking what kind of business skills we need to develop for upcoming future for fighting this new technology.
Yeah,
Mm.
the skills is in terms of learn. Good olden days, you did not have, even though there was an intent, there was no access to learning, and we all know about Ekalavya and the famous story of Ekalavya, right, where he had a great desire to learn, but he was denied learning. He did not have access for learning. But today you have many avenues for learning, but access is available, but intent is low, and intent is low across the segment. So how can you keep that intent high, and
Wait,
keep.
Rajesh, have we lost you, or is it only me?
No, I'm there.
Yeah, I think we can hear Rajesh. Yeah. You're
Ashish.
frozen though. Yeah.
Yeah. So they keep that intent high, and then look for these areas. You don't have to master everything, right? You just have to identify one or two topics where you want to spend more time and learn. That is one area. And good thing
Right.
is technology today is becoming so accessible. 15 years ago, when I was thinking about a startup, I was happy with an idea, but I was wondering in terms of where the technology is going to come from, where the technology people are going to come from, where
Mhm.
the compute is going to come from, and all of that has been solved today, right? You just go and sign up with a cloud provider. You have straight away access
Yeah.
to a world class infrastructure from a compute perspective. And not only that, and today you get algorithms from an open source perspective. You can do a lot of things on GitHub. You can do a lot of things on Slack. There is Yammer and various other tools and various other avenues which are there. And that's where you need to go. And you don't have to be that technically savvy as well. Yeah, you just need to understand the concepts. And once you understand the concepts, you get a reasonable hang of everything.
Great. Thank you. Dipit, is there another
Right.
question?
There are actually
No.
quite a few.
Hmm.
Our very own Ritu is asking, how do we ensure safeguards between the real world and the metaverse? Very interesting question.
Sorry, Deepit, I didn't catch that. Can you please repeat
How
it?
do we ensure that there are safeguards between the real world and the metaverse?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of there are challenges of identity, there are challenges of addiction, and there are various other things. Obviously, there are good aspects as well as the bad aspects. Currently, today there is no code of practice that has evolved. Remember when we got first exposed to social media? We were sharing everything happily on social media. Today, we know in terms of what content to share, what content not to share, what
Right.
aspects of personal details to be put on your social media account, and what aspects to be hidden, all that stuff, right? Earlier, people were happily giving away their numbers, their address, and various other things when it first came into existence. And over a period of time, the code of practice has evolved. There are do's and don'ts. People have become a lot more conversant, lot more intelligent, and lot more proficient with those environments, and the safeguards and the safe rails have evolved. The same thing is applicable in between the digital world and the physical world. Today there is no code of practice, and that code of practice is going to emerge. There are a lot of issues in terms of religiously insensitive content, gender insensitive content, racism, and various other things. And those are getting monitored. There are monitoring mechanisms that have come up. We call that as CSAM, which stands for Child Safety and Adult Material Monitoring Methods, which
Right.
are
Right.
being brought up by a lot of providers. And those practices and those guardrails are evolving over a period of time.
Great.
Right.
So we have just time for two more. I have quite a few here. Dipit, you want to take one, and I'm going to end with one, right?
I think those are coming to you directly, Ashish. I can't see them,
Okay.
so I think you can go
I have
ahead.
6, 7 questions. I'm sorry, students. We'll answer later, but I can ask you. Let me ask this question. So, uh, in your career, especially the last 2 years, uh, which is the one most standout and innovative project that you worked on? So that's a question by one of our students. Rajesh, you want to take an
Yeah,
answer
the
to that?
most
One
standout
project,
and
not those.
innovative.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The most standout and innovative thing that I worked out is recently, just before
Hmm.
joining PwC for Tech Mahindra.
Hmm.
This was a conversation that I had with Anand Mahindra. He had visited us, and then he was saying that Tatas have come up with an app called Tata New, and we don't have an answer. We don't even have an answer for that. What should we be doing? I said, the app is become old, and with the advent of 5G, apps will go out of the phone, and we have to figure out a new method of doing it. And it'll also give you a generation shift, and you can leap forward. Then he said, what is that we can do? Then we said, we do immersive tech. And then we launched the complete apartment buying experience, the first real
Okay.
estate company in the
Okay.
world to
Okay.
launch the apartment buying experience on metaverse. We had to push the frontier of every known technology, the streaming from hyperscalers to access to the technology, to aspects like photorealism, various other things. As I said, it can't be a cartoonish kind of a thing, right? Nobody will
Yes.
adopt.
Yes.
It has to be photorealistic, it has to be meaningful, and it has to be relatable. And that one I worked very closely. Another one which I worked not fully on, but in terms of developing a large language model in
Mm-hmm.
Hindi language called
Okay.
Project Indus
Mm-hmm.
from
Called what?
Tech
Sorry.
Mahindra. Project Indus.
Okay. Okay.
And we did come up with a large language model in Hindi, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like a big challenge, right? Because Hindi is not spoken in the same manner across the country. There's
Yes.
Bhojpuri, there's
Yeah.
Dakni, there is Marwari, there is so many other things. So how do you now uh, process all of that and then enable the computer to understand those kind of accents? Even the written Hindi is going to be very, very different, right? The same sentence can be written in multiple ways by people speaking different dialects of Hindi. So we
Mm-hmm.
had to harness all of that stuff and come up with a grounds up large
Wow.
language model.
Awesome.
That was an interesting one.
Wow. So, may I ask how many people were involved in this? Because you need a lot of people to decipher Hindi and do some kind of.
So yeah, that's right. So we did an intelligent one. So what we did is we hired a lot of interns, and then we ran a social program called Basha Dan. So we
Mm.
went to people and said, look, can you just take your phone, record some 5, 10, 15 sentences, and then donate those sentences to us. And once they have donated that particular sentences, our team looked at that, and then they kind of harmonized all those aspects. So full time around 20 people, extended
Okay.
team a lot more, around 50 to 100 people.
5,200 people. Wow. That's a project, right? That's a
Yeah.
project with real scale, then, huh? And this excludes the people who volunteered, I would assume.
That 50 to 100 are primarily yeah, the voice contribution will be a lot more. The 50 to
Wow.
100 are basically interns and the others who came on the project on gig basis, and then they contributed to it.
Awesome. Awesome. Great, Rajesh. Thank you very much. It has been wonderful having this chat with you. It's been inspiring for our students. I'm sure it's piqued their curiosity as well. It's also a good start to their coursework and thought work that they have to do over the next semester around new technologies,
Mhm.
machine learning and AI in particular. So thank you very much, and we'd love to see you on Shoolini campus. I mean, with the kind of insights you have, you will be such an asset to inspire students and encourage them to think differently, encourage them to talk about new technologies as well as be entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. More than happy to do that.
thank you very much, Rajesh, and from all our students, from the entire Shoolini faculty, on behalf of I think everybody who joined us today. I believe that off and on we had around 200 plus students joining us. On behalf of all of them, thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
My
Bye.
pleasure. Thanks. Bye
Thank you,
for now.
Rajesh. And thank
Stay
you
safe.
again for everyone for tuning in. You can find this session going up on YouTube in the next day or so. And you can also check out our previous sessions, and please watch out on our socials for the next one. Again, thank you so much, Rajesh, for taking the time. And of course, thank you, Ashish. Wishing you all a great evening and take care. Bye bye.